Hi there, my name is John Stevens. I'm pastor of Zion Lutheran Church in Oregon City, Oregon, and we're part of the ELCA. And welcome to Dollar Store Children's Sermons, where we take a look at the lectionary text and we tie them to an item from the junk drawer, kids' room, garage, or the Dollar Tree. It depends on where we're at and all the things that's going on. I am so glad you're here. This is for the 5th Sunday of Easter, and I'm just double checking to make sure. Yes, I got it right. Last video I ended up having to do it like 3 times because I kept saying, this is the second, this is the, where are we? Anyway, 5th Sunday of Easter, and for the Revised Common Lectionary, we're looking at the Acts text and the Gospel. The text from Acts is the Ethiopian eunuch, that conversation, the baptism, the stuff that's going on there, and then the gospel is the vine and the branches, and that we are connected to the vine and all that. So, it's all about, in my opinion, all about God expanding the circle, or God showing us what the circle actually looks like, those who belong. And that circle gets bigger and bigger and bigger. In the book of Acts, throughout the book, there's different things happening. You've got Peter and the net that comes down with all the unclean animals, not in this one, but later. And so we've got that where it's like, what I said is clean, and not just referring to the animals. So all of that happening. And here we've got the Ethiopian eunuch who is outside in many ways. And we could have a whole Bible study on what that is. But they're, in Philip's teaching, what he's been taught, completely outside. But here's the Ethiopian eunuch. He's reading some scripture, and he's like, hey, do you know what that is? And the guy's like, how do I know unless it's explained to me? It really feels like a carry on, or a continuation, the right word, continuation of the road to Emmaus, of as they're walking along, and here are these 2 disciples and having the scriptures opened up to them. And then here, how am I supposed to know this unless someone tells it to me? So there's a couple of different springboards on this. One is, I have a great activity book. Yeah, look at kitties, this giant activity book. And then kitty or dogs and all kinds of different activities. And all this is about learning and it's about learning, and it's about teaching. There's stuff that's in here that a kid might be able to do by themselves, but you could also guide them and as they're learning, and that's what it feels like in here, where since it's like, hey, come on up here and talk to me about this. Help me. That we're walking in faith together, and that's a beautiful thing, especially in Acts, as this church is this newly formed church as they're traveling along. So there's that. Connected to that, in the gospel lesson with being the vine, this feeling that we are called to continue to grow. But growing is not always up to us. The Spirit, in baptism, tying that into the Ethiopian eunuch, the tie of baptism and watered, and our faith. And so I ran into this here. Sorry about that. That was a little loud. I might have to probably see if I can trim that out. Anyway, this here, keep growing, and about, and there's enough. If you're meeting in person, you could take this and you could give this to your kids, and they could put that up there, and you tell them what it says, keep growing, and it's got a couple of plants on there. Because the thing is that with the Ethiopian eunuch, he's not the only one here. He's not the only one that is growing in faith. Philip, the church, all of that about who God is saying, yeah, the circle is expanding. So that brings me to, I put a link on the Dollar Store Children's page, linking it back to a children's sermon in Epiphany, or in the Sundays after Epiphany, and that is walking through a piece of paper. And that you have a sheet of paper and how you cut it, and you can expand it and you can walk through the paper, because that, if you haven't used it, or even if you did, you could do it again, and you could talk about how, this is how God takes something that looks so small and and is able to expand it to where even I can fit through the circle. I mean, and that's the key thing. It's like many times we're like, we might go, oh, what about that person over there? Well, honestly, if God lets me in, yeah. There's a song, two songs they're just popping in my head. One is Jonathan Rudman has a song that he did for Augsburg Fortress years ago for middle school Sunday school program, and it's a song on from the Ethiopian eunuch, and it's Queen Candace, do I have news for you? And that's one of the lines, and it's great. You can search it up. It's a wonderful song. There's that, and then there's Dazzling Bouquet of Flowers, and it's the this is a church, or mine is a church where everybody's welcome. And I know this is true because they let me through the door. And it's that pointing back to me. It's like the fact that I'm let in. And this really, as the stories of Acts move along, that's really true because I'm outside of the original promise. And I don't know about you, but you probably are as well. And we've been grafted in. We've been grafted into the promise. So I'm getting off on other tangents. I know, shocker. Anyway. Now, the last thing about expanding the circle. This works if you have a bracelet. I'm using a ring, but a bracelet I like because it's a little bit, there's the possibility that this might be able to happen and they just don't know how you're going to do it. But the idea about God gives us eyes or visions to see things a little bit differently. See, so this ring, I'm going to poke my head through this ring. All right? I'm going to poke my head right through this ring. Yep. And you got a bracelet. You hear? I'm going to poke my head right through. Do you think I can do it? And you don't even have to ask the question to set that up. You can just say, I'm going to poke my head right through this ring. You look dubious, sir. And then you're there. And I'm going to poke. Okay, ready? You ready? Poke, 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 poke. I'm poking my head right through the ring. Yeah, it's silly. But it gives us, now when I say, do you believe I can poke my head through this ring? Everyone's like, yeah, I know the answer to that. Do you believe that God welcomes us into the circle of grace? Yeah, because we know it, we've seen it, we experience it. So that's the thing. God's expanding the circle. Or I like to say more that God is clearing our vision, because the circle's been expanded a long time. We're just being able to now come along for the ride. Back to the Ethiopian eunuch in the carriage as they're moving. I don't know. All right, that's quite a bit of stuff there. I hope something in here can be useful for your own children's sermon, a springboard. Thank you so much for stopping by. And as we talk about being a community together, thank you for your partnership in this ministry. Thank you for this is past 8 years of doing this, but this last year, it's like there's just something that's been gelling with everybody together, and I'm so glad you're with us. Thank you, and we will see you next week. Peace.